going back to the earlier part of my career, like in the early 90s, when I was really getting into it, I had, as I said, I had donated photographs to various charity events, and one of the ones I donated to was something called Focus on AIDS, which is a big event that, where they'd auction off photographs to raise money for the AIDS Project Los Angeles. And at one of the, I think in 1991, the fall of 91, I was, they had all the photographs displayed in the lobby of the Directors Guild, the DGA building. And there was a family there that really liked the photograph that I had up for auction there. And this family at the time had been, they were volunteering in an AIDS hospice in Van Nuys. And I had just ended an 8-year relationship with somebody, and I was kind of looking for something meaningful to do, to sink my teeth into. And this family asked me if I wanted to join them, you know, volunteering in this AIDS hospice. And I said, okay. And it was kind of a scary prospect at first, because a lot of the residents of this AIDS hospice were people without families, and they were pretty advanced in their stages of AIDS. You know, looked, you know, kind of like, I guess you would say, you know, Holocaust victims, very thin and bones and so forth. And I got into close proximity with them, and then after a period of time, after several months of volunteering, and I was going like 4 or 5 times a week, they allowed me to photograph them. So I made this series of incredible, very harrowing portraits of these people, but beautiful. But the following year, that was in '92 and '93, there was a big series of exhibits all throughout Los Angeles. And it was, you know, in many venues, but the whole theme of this exhibit or series of exhibits was HIV and AIDS. So it was either about or by artists who were HIV positive. And I ended up exhibiting my photographs in some venue out in the valley, and there was a woman there who was a painter from San Francisco who was HIV positive and albino. And she said in her artist statement on the wall, she painted these flowers, she said, "The more personal my expression, the more universal its meaning." And that was something that really struck a chord with me, because, oh, that's, you know, something. So I began and that was kind of like, you know, you hear certain things in your life and your career that kind of help guide you to who you are, to find your own voice. And that helped me find my own voice, that I became really fascinated with the personal element of things. So throughout the 90s, when I find myself on a movie set, I often found myself fascinated with the people in the neighborhoods who were watching us. And so anyway, so moving forward to 2001, when 9/11 happened, and I remember being, you know, when we were kind of inundated with the whole specter of terror, you know, terrorism and so forth. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we came to the conclusion that the antidote to terror is in the richness of everyday life that's all around us. So I just began, I had been in Las Vegas in early 2002, and I had met this, I was working on a project that involved gambling in casinos, but not on the glamorous part of the Strip, but kind of the north end, more of the seedier area where people would, you know, take their Social Security checks and go gamble. And I met this old couple there, and took them to lunch, and photographed them, and it was just before Valentine's Day, and I wrote a little story about it, and it was a photo paired with a story, and I emailed it around to a lot of my friends and associates, and I got a very positive response. Then a little while later, I was in LA, and I ran into this homeless guy coming out of Aaron Brothers Art Store, and Willie Harris, and same thing, did a story about him and mailed that around. So I just began doing these photos with accompanying stories just about random encounter that I have. And I got such a positive response from such a wide cross-section of people that at one point I remember emailing around some big movie poster I shot, and one guy wrote back, "Well, I like the poster, but I like the stories much better." So I knew I was on to something.